Good morning. Welcome back to 10 Minutes of Meaning, generously sponsored by Marilyn and Michael Fedak. So grateful to them for their generosity. Please help yourself to refreshments, coffee, pastry, slushies in the lobby. Should be a meaningful Yom HaZikaron as we continue to pay tribute and thank those who gave their lives for the Jewish people in the defense of our beloved Israel. We're learning Tanya together. The Sefer HaBeinonim, Halavai Beinoni, Halavai that we should merit to be at that level, to be worthy of being called the Beinoni. So if it is the Sefer HaBeinonim, if it's the book that talks about and describes the merit, the virtue, and the identity of the Beinoni, then we need to define what is a Beinoni. And that's what we've been discussing as we begin the Sefer. So the Alter Rebbe, the Baal Tanya so far has tried to, by process of elimination, in a sheer Klali style, by asking a series of questions, come to define exactly what is a Beinoni. So we talked about in the world there's a tzaddik, a rasha, and a Beinoni. And the simple understanding, the classic understanding is that if there's a scale and we're evaluating right and wrong, our merits and demerits, so the tzaddik, the scale is in their favor. They've done more right things than wrong things. The rasha, scale is against them. They've done more wrong things than right things. And the Beinoni is exactly even. The Baal Tanya says that can't be. That can't be what that Gemara means. It can't be what the Beinoni is. For several reasons, asked the Baal Tanya. One is because a tzaddik can't be somebody who just has one more merit. The scale is tipped just a tiny bit, just a little bit in their favor. But more than that, we saw that the Gemara tells us, and we have these 5 descriptions: tzaddik v'ralo, tzaddik v'tovlo, rasha v'ralo, rasha v'tovlo, and a Beinoni. What are the different levels within the tzaddik, the rasha, and the Beinoni? And by process of elimination, helping us understand who is the Beinoni. So I spent time on this, discussing it with some Rabbanim who I respect, who really understand Tanya. There are multiple interpretations or understandings, but here is what I gleaned. So this is my own consensus or putting them together. Essentially is the following. The tzaddik does all the right things. The tzaddik's evaluated. If you look at the tzaddik, you see the tzaddik makes the right decisions. In thought and speech and in action, the tzaddik is doing all the wrong things. The rasha is making the wrong decisions. As the Baal Tanya says, who's the shofet? Who's the ultimate arbiter? Who's the judge? Where's the command center? Who's making the call? Who's making the decision to do the right thing or the wrong thing? In the case of the tzaddik, the judge, the arbiter, the engine, the driver is the conscience of good. In the case of the rasha, it's a poor choice, the wrong choice, bad judgment, it's bad. So what's tzaddik v'ra lo, rasha v'tov lo, v'chulei? So the Baal Tanya pointed us to the Zohar, the Rai Demhemna, that explains that the key is understanding tzaddik v'ra lo, tzaddik v'tov lo. It's not some external reward or punishment. Why do bad things happen to good people? Good things happen to bad people. Good things happen to good people. It's not the external, why do these things happen to us? But these descriptions are describing what's happening inside of us. The tzaddik v'ra lo is the person who makes all the right calls and decisions, lives a righteous life, isn't even tempted and doesn't battle by making the wrong decisions, but ra lo, still inside them, there is a yetzer hara. The tzaddik v'tovlo is somebody who makes the right decision, behaves in the right way, and is kulo tov. There is not even an inclination. There is not only is there no battle or struggle, there is no essence, there's no source, there's no yetzer within him. The rasha makes the wrong conclusion, the wrong decision. That could come because v'ra lo, he's filled with the poor inclination, or he's a rasha, tov lo, there is a positive inclination in him, but ultimately the judge chooses the wrong. He's a rasha, even though tov lo. And then there's the Beinoni. So where does the Beinoni fit in? So I'll illustrate by way of this example, which may not be perfect and may not be entirely accurate, but it helps me in my understanding, is the following. Let's say you have a glass of alcohol. Alcohol is neutral. Alcohol can be used to elevate. Alcohol can be used to lower us, demean us, destroy us. Alcohol isn't inherently one or the other. A tzaddik v'tovlo, the tzaddik looks at that glass of alcohol, v'tovlo, and there's only good in him, only sees in that alcohol the capacity, the possibility to sanctify Hashem, to serve Hashem, to use and utilize it, to elevate themselves in the service of Hashem. How else can it be used or misused or abused? How can it be something negative? What could be bad in it? The tzaddik doesn't see it. The tzaddik v'tovlo, tzaddik who only has tov in him, all he sees is the possibility to serve Hashem with it. All he sees is being drawn to Hashem with it. And he's repulsed by the thought of the opposite, the Baal Tanya will get to. The notion that somebody could use or abuse the alcohol, the tzaddik v'tovlo can't even see or relate or understand, has no capacity to see it in it, that he's repulsed by it. The tzaddik v'ralo is not struggling with misusing or abusing the alcohol. There's no battle. There's no struggle. He's a tzaddik. His inclination draws him only to do the right thing with it. But ralo, there's a piece of him that heard epis somewhere. There's someone. Maybe there's a possibility. There are those. Alcohol can be used to lower, to lessen for the animal soul for something bad. The Beinoni looks at the alcohol and says, ooh, I don't know whether to use it positively or negatively, whether to elevate or demean or get drunk or be intoxicated. There's a struggle. The Beinoni makes the right decision in the end. The Beinoni uses the alcohol to elevate, doesn't use and abuse it, but there's a battle, there's a struggle. So again, Tzaddik v'tov lo looks at it or any other example of a Yetzer Hara, of the potential and the possibility in this material physical world. The Tzaddik v'tov lo only sees Elokus, only sees God and goodness, only sees the possibility to draw close, only sees the ability to serve him, and in fact is repulsed by the suggestion of the opposite. The tzaddik viralo doesn't struggle, will make the right decision, behave the right way without even a battle or a struggle, but ralo, in him is still that ability to understand, to see, to know that there is the possibility to use it, not for elokus. The Rasha, viralo, similarly, only abuses the alcohol, and Ralo doesn't even see elokus, the possibility to use it for good. And the Rasha, the Tovlo, uses and abuses the alcohol negatively, but Tovlo saw the possibility of elokus, but didn't go down that path. And the Beinoni sees it and says, I'm struggling. I don't know which way to go. Makes the right call in the end. How did I come to this? I've been thinking a lot. In between the Wednesdays when we learn it together, believe me, I'm thinking about it. Because again, I'm trying to grow with it, and I'm not teaching Tanya, I'm just learning Tanya out loud. So in my conversations, I'm trying to identify, how is the Beinoni, if the Beinoni makes the right decision, but struggles to get there, how are they different than the Tzaddik v'ralo? And if the Tzaddik v'tovlo doesn't even see in this world anything other than Elokus and being an Eved Hashem, so, but how do you reconcile that with that there's no person, Ein Adam Ba'aretz Asher Yasa Tov V'lo Yechata, there is no perfect person, that everybody makes mistakes, that's built in. So how can you reconcile that with the tzaddik v'tovlo? These are some of the things that we're going to have to continue to unpack as we learn together. Back to the text, back to the Tanya itself. So the Baal Tanya was trying to figure out now, what's the Beinoni? So Gam lahavin ma'oz madregas ha-Beinoni shavada ina mechtzos chuyus u'mechtzos avonos. You can't understand this Beinoni, what Rav Chaim Miller calls the in-betweener, what others translate the word Beinoni as the, how do others translate the word Beinoni? I forgot to bring my Rav Steinsaltz. Beinoni, the tzaddik is the righteous, and the Rasha is the wicked, and the Beinoni is the intermediate. Thank you. So most translate the word Beinoni as intermediate. Here, Rav Chaim Miller throughout translates it as the book for in-betweeners. That's not an accident. He could have used the word intermediate. He didn't. He used the word in-betweeners, and we'll see why. It's a great name for a society. It's a new club at BRS, the in-betweeners. We're the in-betweeners. It's a good name, the in-betweeners. So to be an in-betweener, to be a Beinoni, it can't be half and half. It can't be. Because the Tanya quoted the Gemara in Baba Basra where Rabba says about himself, the Gemara elsewhere, Rabba says about himself, I'm a Beinoni. Rabba, the great sage, was a Beinoni. It can't be. He was half and half. Half of his time, half of his choices were the wrong ones. Rabbah was so diligent, he studied with such concentration that the Malach HaMavos, when he came for him, couldn't take him, because Rabbah never looked up, never interrupted, never stopped learning for one moment. So somebody who never interrupted their learning, not for a moment that the Malach HaMavos could get him, if he didn't interrupt his learning for a moment for the Malach HaMavos to get him, when did he do these half of his time sins? So it can't be. How could he describe himself as a Beinoni, and a Beinoni is half and half? There's no way Rabbah was half and half. The Ode. In the moment you make the wrong choice, you're not a Beinoni. In the moment you're packing the scale with the bad choices, you're a Rasha. Look at the wrong thing, say the wrong thing, eat the wrong thing, do the wrong thing, have the wrong thought. In that moment, with that choice, it's a moment of Rishus. One is a Rasha in that moment. If you bounce back, if you repair, if you turn away, if you stop speaking, if you don't eat, so now you're a Tzaddik Gamor. There's no in-betweener. There's no status of in-betweener. Doing the wrong thing for that moment, it's a Rasha. You bounce back, you make the right choice. For that moment, you're a Tzaddik Gamor. So how could the Beinoni be this this limbo, this in-betweener. Even if you're violating something seemingly insignificant, inconsequential, what we would call a lightweight avera, that's still a Russia. The Baal Tanya points to several sources, Yavamas Daf Chaf, Nida Daf Yud Beis, and so on. Even if you're not doing the violation, but you see someone else and you have the opportunity to intervene, you have the opportunity to inspire, to stop them, and you don't, even if you haven't done anything, you're called a Russia. So the whole definitions don't work out. The way we've classically understood, says the Baal Tanya, doesn't make sense. If you neglect or forfeit a positive commandment you could have fulfilled, called a Russia. Any moment you could be filling with learning and you don't. So the Baal Tanya is building the case for when you violate, even not violate, even if you passively forfeit a positive opportunity of a commandment. You don't learn Torah in a moment you could have, you're called a Russia. So this Beinoni has done nothing wrong. Because if they did, they wouldn't be a Beinoni. What would they be? A Russia. So what's left to define the Beinoni? We got the Tzaddik V'Tovlo, Tzaddik V'Ralo. We got the Russia V'Tovlo, Russia V'Ralo. Who is the Beinoni? Will the Beinoni please stand up? How do we define the Beinoni? This is the Sefer HaBeinonim. Halavai Beinoni. This is for us, the in-betweeners. So what's a Beinoni? And a Beinoni can't be someone who did something wrong, because then they'd be a Russia. But if the Beinoni did everything right, why aren't they a tzaddik? So who is the Beinoni? And that's why Rabbah was able to make a mistake about himself and claim he was a Beinoni. So what did he mean by that? How was he describing himself? Where is the ambiguity in the definition of Beinoni that Rabbah could have presented himself in that way? And that which people think that a Beinoni is one with an equal amount of mistakes and an equal amount of the right thing, whose shame that represents when we use the word Beinoni to describe the scales as even, half and half, we're borrowing the term Beinoni, says the Baal Tanya. That's not the actual intrinsic definition of the Beinoni. We're borrowing, it's figurative, it's imprecise. We're borrowing the term Beinoni there to illustrate something. Because the Rambam had to give rabbis something to darshan during Elul and Tishrei. So he said the Beinoni, the scale's half and half. Punkt, your next choice. You could tip the scale, the whole world. Your next thing. When you walk out of here, there's fires raging in Yerushalayim right now. It's a national crisis. It's an emergency going on right now. So in Yerushalayim. So when you walk out of here, what you'll do next could impact whether they put out those fires or whether they spread. Mechza, mechza. The whole world, the scales are even. Your next act is so significant, so consequential, it can tip the scales one direction or another. So the Baal Tanya says, we don't mean the word Beinoni means the scales are even, you're going to tip them. That's not what it means. We're borrowing the term to inspire. A person is judged by Hashem according to the majority of his either averos or mitzvos. And he's classified either as a tzaddik or a rasha. So again, back to what is a Beinoni. Tzadikim yetzer tov shoftam. So the tzaddik, who is the judge? The tzaddik, who's the core decision maker? The yetzer tov. As David HaMelech said, my heart is empty within me. She'ein lo yetzer hara. The tzaddik, certainly the tzaddik v'tovlo, doesn't see in the alcohol how you could even use it for bad. All they see all around them and in everything is elokus, pashut. All there is elokus in people, in things, in actions, in choices, in everything. Ki hargo betanis. So what does it mean that David HaMelech says, Ki libi chala b'kirbi, ein lo yetzahara, ki hargo betanis. David HaMelech annihilated the yetzahara, subdued it through fasting. He was able to destroy even the presence of any ra in him. But anybody who's not gotten to that level that they can say, I've destroyed, I've annihilated the Yetzer Hara in me. All I see, all I think, all I calculate, all I feel is Elokus, Avodas Hashem. Someone who hasn't reached that level, even if you look at their ledger and their positive and correct choices far outweigh their wrong and negative ones, even if their ledger looks wonderful, Eina b'malas madrigas tzaddik klal. To be a tzaddik, you purge the Yetzer Hara. Like David HaMelech, who annihilated it, whatever his methodology, through fasting, whatever else, he annihilated and purged the Yetzer Hara. But if you didn't purge the Yetzer Hara, if there's a struggle and a battle, if it's still inside you, if you still can imagine, if you still fantasize, if you still have a temptation, if you're still seduced, even if your ledger shows you never gave in, but if each time was a battle, you're nish tzaddik. You're not a tzaddik. V'lachein amru Rabbi Seim Zichron Lavracha Medrash Ra Kadosh Baruch Hu Tzaddikim Sheim Mu'atim Amru Shtalan B'Chol Dor V'Dor. Gemara Numa Daf Lamed Ches tells us Kadosh Baruch Hu looked down at this world and he saw, there's very few tzaddikim. There's a real we're going through a real crisis of tzaddikim. So what did he do? He carefully placed them in every generation. Lamed Vav, 36 tzaddikim in every generation. Why? Because he saw there's a shortage. We're going through a shortage. It's a supply chain issue of tzaddikim. There's a shortage of tzaddikim. So says the Baal Tanya, but if to be a tzaddik just means that on the scales you have one more right thing than wrong thing, how could there be a shortage? There should be a lot. There should be a surplus. So we've managed to define a Benoni by process of elimination. The Benoni is not purged and gotten rid of the Yetzer Hara, because then he'd be a tzaddik. And the Benoni is not making the wrong choices and acting out in the wrong way, because then he'd be a Rasha. So who is the Benoni? Who is the Benoni? And that's what we're up to. Be'er ha'inyan. We'll just start with one more sentence. Al pi ma shekasav Rav Chaim Vital Zichron Lavracha V'Shari Kedusha. So here the Alter Rebbe is going to describe the Benoni, now that we've reduced and deduced and extrapolated, and by process of elimination are honed in and focused this Benoni. He's going to help us understand the Benoni and help us understand ourselves by diving into the fact that we have two souls. We have two souls. We think we have one soul. Many aren't even aware of, they're not in touch with, they're not communicating with or nourishing their one soul, let alone know that they have two souls. We live in this physical material world. We wake up, we look in the mirror, we think this is who we are. We pamper, we feed, we take care of ourselves. We are a body. And most neglect and don't even know they have one soul, let alone two. Says the Alter Rebbe, at the core of navigating this world, of healing our wounds, of resolving these symptoms, of treating the disease of what's wrong, is to know that we're two souls. And he teaches this based on Rav Chaim Vital Zichron Lavracha. Rav Chaim Vital and his Eitz Chaim. Who is Rav Chaim Vital? Rav Chaim ben Yosef Calabresi Vital, lived 1542 to 1620, was a great Kabbalist, a disciple of the Arizal, of Rav Yitzchak Luria, and really the core disciple who captured his Torah and communicated it and taught it to us, without which, as Eitz Chaim, we would not have access to it. Everybody, the tzaddik and the rasha, certainly the Benoni, every yid has two souls. Every yid has two souls. Two souls. What the Baal Tanya will call the animal soul, the nefesh bahami, the animal soul, the animal impulse, the animal drive to act like an animal, to live in a pigsty, to eat like an animal, the animal in us that just says indulge, follow your impulse, give in to your instinct, follow your appetite. That's the animal. And the chilek elokah mimal mamish, the godly soul, the divine soul that says self-control. You could regulate. You're in charge. You're in control. You can define. You can live your best selves. And there's a confrontation. There's a battle. There's a tension between these two souls. The impulse and the inclination, and the capacity to be sovereign, discipline, and self-control. Unishamos ani asisi. A pasuk in Yeshaya says, and the souls which I made. The Baal Tanya picks up from this pasuk in Yeshaya. It doesn't say the neshama that I made, the soul. It says the souls. Shein shtei nefashos. There are two complete independent souls in their own right. Nefesh achas mitzad klipa, the sitra achra. There's one soul that comes from the klipa, which is the ego, the animal, the impulse, the appetite. The sitra achra, the other side. We use it even colloquially. Pop culture borrowed it and stole it from us. That notion of the dark side and the other side. That's a Jewish notion, a mystical notion. There's a sitra achra, there's a dark side, there's another side. And that's what we'll continue with. So now the Baal Tanya is going to help us define the Benoni by talking about the two souls all have, and helping us hone in further what and where does the animal soul come from, how can we contend with it, and then what's our mission and goal with it. So others believe the goal is to slaughter the animal soul, destroy it. The Baal Tanya spoiler alert, is going to teach us that our goal is not to slaughter, destroy the animal soul. It's going to be to train the animal, train and use the animal. If you kill your ox, what are you going to plow with? You got to train the animal and use it to your benefit. And that's how he's going to define not only the Beinoni, but our purpose and our mission in life and where we go from here. Should be a day of Yeshua's v'nechamas, a meaningful day of Mazikaron. And we should be zocha to bring our hostages home and to be victorious in victory, to put out the fires and to turn on the fires of Ruchnius and Yiddishkeit. Have a good day.